Hey guys, it's Stephen here, back with another video, and this is the first part of a two-part preview series looking ahead to the very big game tomorrow night against Real Madrid in the Champions League. It's absolutely huge, and for that reason alone we needed some kind of La Liga expertise. So I brought in Euan McTear from the Liga Lowdown podcast, and today he's going to run through all the information you need to know about Real Madrid and Zidane's side in general. Euan, thank you for coming on, mate. I hope you're good.
No worries, Stephen, my pleasure.
Euan, I'm going to jump straight to the chase. This Real Madrid side, how good is it? Is it as good as the side that won 3 back-to-back Champions Leagues, the Cristiano Ronaldo side in general? Or has it kind of slightly changed since then?
It's definitely changed since then. Whether it's as good is a different question. I mean, when you look at this Real Madrid team, if you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago how good they are, I would have been absolutely raving about them. But they're maybe in probably the worst form of the season. They just got knocked out the Copa del Rey. They drew at home to Celta Vigo, who are down at the bottom of La Liga, and then they lost away at Levante, a mid-table team, at the weekend. So they've kind of gone through a little bit of a sticky patch. But the thing that's really changed about Real Madrid is when they had Cristiano Ronaldo, they could score with ease. They could score whenever they wanted because they had one of the best finishers, if not the best finisher of, well, this century, maybe ever. And now they've had to change, and they're a much more defensive team. You look at it, they've got the best defensive record in La Liga, which you never had with Cristiano Ronaldo. That was always Atletico Madrid's thing. But without Cristiano Ronaldo, you've got more players there who are maybe more willing to track back, more willing to put in that effort in defence. So they're a lot more solid in defence. They've also got Thibaut Courtois instead of Keylor Navas. I love Keylor Navas. He was vital in those Champions Leagues. He just turned up on the big nights. But overall, I think Courtois is a better goalkeeper. So it's a more defensive Real Madrid than the attacking one last time Real Madrid played City in those semi-finals a few years ago.
Is there anything you can put this current form down to? Obviously, because you said they lost to Levante, which is a huge blow, and then Celta Vigo and going out in the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey to Real Sociedad. Is there any particular factor? Is it just a bit of bad luck, or was this on its way? If that makes sense, is it just timing?
It's a strange one. You can't really put it down to tiredness or anything like that because Real Madrid have had quite a few full weeks of rest ahead of these games. So it's a peculiar one. I guess if you had to name something, it's that Zidane has been rotating maybe a little bit too much. The Copa del Rey exit, he was quite heavily criticised for playing too weakened a team. They played Real Sociedad, who is a good team. They're challenging for Champions League spots. They played their best 11. Real Madrid did not. They probably rested about half of their main starters. And then at Levante, they rested a few players as well. Fede Valverde, who's been key, and we'll probably talk about him. He didn't start. Marcelo played instead of Ferland Monde, and they paid for it because they rotated maybe a bit too heavily. So unfortunately for City fans, that probably doesn't really serve too much because obviously on Wednesday night they'll be playing their strongest 11.
So on that point, yes, you mentioned a few players there. How are you expecting this Real Madrid team to line up? Because I know obviously they've got quite Hazard, for example, is injured at the moment, which is obviously a bit of a blow for Real Madrid. But he's not really been integral to this season in general, has he, due to the injuries? How big a blow is that going to be for Madrid in general, and how are you expecting them to line up?
Yeah, the Hazard thing's interesting because you lose a player like Hazard, of course it's a blow, but he's only got 1 goal this season. Of course he's not played very much. He started the season injured, then he was out for 3 months, and now he's out again. But when he had played, it was still trying to find his feet, trying to link up with Benzema. And maybe it could be a little bit of a blessing in disguise for Real Madrid for this specific tie, because it means that they can probably line up with a 4-5-1, which is something they sort of trialled at the Spanish Super Cup in January. It was a 4-team tournament they held in Saudi Arabia. Zidane surprised everybody by putting out 5 midfielders and just Benzema up top, but it worked really well. And I think this is something they could use certainly in the first leg, where you're playing a team that has possession. You want to keep the ball as much as possible. Your priority is probably not to let them score the away goal than it is for you to score. The interesting thing with Real Madrid, I'll point this out, is they're really good away from home and not so good at home. You look at it, if you look at their season as a whole, and you're including a few cup games here where it's not 3 points, it's elimination. But if you counted every game they've played this season as a 3 points up for grabs, they've got exactly 2.06 points per game from every home game and 2.06 points per game from every away game. So their home form isn't as good as it probably should be, and their away form is quite good. So I reckon they'll fancy their chances at the Etihad of getting a goal or two. So I think the priority is just keep the ball, keep possession, don't let them get an away goal or limit it to one away goal. And the 4-5-1 with 5 midfielders, so you would have Toni Kroos, you'd have Casemiro, Luka Modric, Fede Valverde and Isco. All of those players, they can all pass, they can all keep the ball, and maybe try and get a goal with Benzema.
It's very Guardiola kind of midfield, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think this is why I say it's maybe a blessing in disguise against Manchester City, because when you're going up against Guardiola, you kind of have to either go completely different, go for a completely different style, or try to play a similar style. If you try to play a blend, I don't really think that'll work. It'll be interesting to see, because this, of course, is the first ever time we've seen Zidane go up against Guardiola. They've never met in their coaching careers. Even in their playing careers, they only played 2 or 3 times. So we don't really know what to expect. It's a bit like Klopp and Simeone last week. That was the first time they played each other or coached against each other. This is the first time. So we don't have anything to go on from the past from these 2 coaches. We don't know how they'll try to out-tactic each other.
It's going to be fascinating, genuinely fascinating. Because I said, I've been trying to work it out as well, but like, it's uncharted territory, so we've no idea really. We've got to see how it plays out, of course. In terms of Real Madrid's key men, I mean, obviously you can look at the big names like Benzema scoring goals and all that kind of stuff. But is anyone else who stood out recently for Real Madrid that could be crucial over these couple of ties?
Yeah, I'd pick out Fede Valverde, and if you've not been watching La Liga this season, you might not know who he is because he's only just emerged this season. Uruguayan's central midfielder, and he just runs and runs and runs, and he's fantastic. And when he's not in the team, you really notice it because he has that sort of box-to-box mentality. He can play as a defensive midfielder. He's provided cover for Casemiro when he's had to, but he can also go up front. He can score goals. He can assist. He's just absolutely everything. And he was one of the reasons, I guess, why they lost at the weekend, because they rested him. He only came on for the last 10 minutes, so he's going to have all the energy in the world in this one, and he's one to look out for sure.
Could I ask you to do like a predicted 11, if possible? I know it's a bit kind of sketchy, but who do you think is going to start in this game? Yeah,
so I mean, it kind of writes itself if they go for the 5-man midfield, because the back line will be Courtois. At right back, you'll have Dani Carvajal. Centre backs, you'll have Sergio Ramos, Rafael Varane. Left back, you'll have Ferland Mendy, not Marcelo. Marcelo this season,
he's dropped off, hasn't he, a bit? Yeah,
it's starting to become not Marcelo's position. In La Liga this season, for example, he's played 9 games. In 8 of them, they've conceded a goal, and for the team that's got the best defensive record, that says a lot. Ferland Mendy has been really good. He's really solid in defence. Maybe doesn't give as much in attack as Marcelo does, but defensively he's solid. Everyone expects him to start in this game. Then midfield, I think it'll be the 5-man midfield I mentioned, Modric, Valverde, Casemiro, Isco, and who's the other one? I just said them, and then
Casemiro, Kroos as well, yeah.
And then Karim Benzema up top.
Which is it's a solid side. It's an experienced side as well, isn't it? With a kind of it's a slightly changed in general.
Most of these names are there from the 3 in a row, the 4 and 5 years. There's only a couple of new ones like Valverde and Mendy, but at the same time they're taking the place of players who were in that three-peat side that have dropped off. So if anything, it's stronger.
Finally, from like the City perspective, do you think City have got a chance? Of course they do. They're a great side, but I know it's never as simple as that. But is this a good time for Manchester City to play Real Madrid?
Yeah, like I say, considering the form of the past 2 or 3 weeks, maybe it is a good time. But then I go back to that point of I think the form in the last few weeks has dropped off because they're preparing for this, not just this game, but this big week because they have the Clásico coming up on Sunday as well. I think it's a good time for both teams because they're maybe both really focused on the Champions League. In the league, they've got big games coming up and things like this. But I think this is a tie that none of these teams wanted, but they probably feel a little bit better about their own individual chances now than they did in December. I don't know what you think from a City perspective, but I think the confidence for both sides has maybe grown a little bit as you get closer to the game. Maybe that's just the nature of the Champions League. You always feel a bit more confident when, especially when the Champions League music starts playing, when the first last 16 games get underway. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. And I don't know, I think in the Spanish press there's a big fear of Man City. I think in the British press there's a bigger fear of Real Madrid. I think everybody's maybe overrating the opposition from the other country, and in the national media they're downplaying the chances of their own team. But these are 2 teams who wouldn't look out of place in the semi-finals, and sadly one of them's going to have to take an early exit.
This has got boring 0-0 written all over it, hasn't it, after all that?
It might, like I say, with all the possession, if it does become tense, if it does become a let's just pass the ball and not risk too much, maybe the first leg could be, but that just means everyone going to the Etihad for the second leg will get to see the actual fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fingers crossed, 'cause I'll be there. So hopefully goals galore bit in from blue shirts. Euan, where is it that people can find you again? It's the La Liga Lowdown, right? The podcast?
Yeah, that's right. I'm Euan McTear on Twitter, and then La Liga Lowdown. We cover all of Spanish football, La Liga, Copa del Rey, and of course the Spanish teams in the Champions League. You type in La Liga Lowdown, you'll find us.
Thank you very much, Euan. Absolute hero. Guys, go and make sure you follow Euan on Twitter, which is Euan, just Euan McTear, yeah? Right, I'll put a link on screen, all that kind of stuff, and go and subscribe to La Liga Lowdown. For now, though, let us know your predictions. Subscribe, like, comment, and stay tuned for part 2 later where I'll be looking at Manchester City side of things. Thanks very much, guys.